For the sixth and the last time, I have come to light this Christmas tree in the nation's capital. My prayer now, as it has been in each of these other Decembers, is for peace and reconciliation abroad, justice and tranquility at home.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is the Wizard of Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever, oh ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
For this time will be the last time that I'll have the privilege of inviting the youngsters of Washington in for Christmas to celebrate it with me. And it's such a special joy to be able to have one of my own children to celebrate the great coming of Santa along with you.
December 1968, the final full month of the presidency of Lyndon Johnson. It was a time when great achievements were harvested by Americans in space exploration, economic gains, and statecraft. When the violence of the past year gave way to a growing hope for peace and goodwill. As the year drew to a close, preparations were well underway for the inauguration of Richard Nixon as president on January 20th, 1969. The passing of the torch of American leadership was marked by an unusual degree of cooperation. In one of his final cabinet meetings at the White House, President Johnson laid out the course for his administration to follow in the remaining days ahead.
I have a brief statement I want to make concerning the last month of this administration. We've had 5 years to initiate and to implement many new programs and to change existing policy and formulate our own policy. And I think that every member of the cabinet may be justly proud of the record of his department. Of course, the government must go on without interruption until January the 20th. And each department head was going to have daily problems to solve and program decisions which cannot be properly deferred. However, I feel it is neither desirable or equitable to take action that binds the hands of the next administration in major program areas unless there is overriding necessity to do so.
On December 12th, the Nixons were invited for a second transition get-together at the White House.
Our next president will also face many difficult challenges in international affairs. He deserves the support of all of us in helping him to meet those challenges. I hope and I believe that what America has done in the past few years will strengthen his ability to meet his responsibilities to America and to the world.
While Mrs. Nixon and daughter Tricia were entertained elsewhere in the executive mansion, affairs of state were discussed by President and President-elect, as well as by their respective advisors, in this case, Walt Rostow and Henry Kissinger. They went over the problems that transcended partisan politics and linked the outgoing and incoming administrations in a dialogue of consultation. Although little time remained for the Johnson administration, one of the president's continuing concerns was the economic health of the nation. During the month, the president met with the Quadriad, his top economic advisory group made up of the Secretary of the Treasury, the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, the Budget Director, and the Chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, for a general review of the economic situation. Mr. Oken headed up another special cabinet group which recommended in December a broad program of voluntary restraint in wages and prices to combat inflation while preserving the nation's record-breaking prosperity. As evidence of this prosperity, the unemployment rate dropped to a 15-year low of 3.3%. The president also indicated that the nation would enjoy a budget surplus for fiscal 1969. For Americans, December 1968 was a banner month in scientific achievement. President Johnson paid tribute to the men who probed into the tiniest building blocks of the universe and to those who blazed new trails in its vast outer spaces.
Most of us are not so sure-footed as you are, Dr. Wheeler, in the complex world and in the difficult vocabulary of the nuclear scientists.
First, there was the Enrico Fermi Award, given to Dr. John A. Wheeler of Princeton University for his pioneer work in nuclear physics. Praise was also extended to Dr. Glenn Seaborg, chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission.
As it can, you are one who has chosen, like Ulysses, to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. Our hope is to sustain and to support you in that voyage.
Man's quest for knowledge certainly was a major impetus in the voyage to the moon, which American space scientists and engineers planned for December. A few days before the Apollo 8 countdown, at the first White House dinner honoring America's entire space team, President Johnson praised the leadership of NASA's outgoing director, James Webb. On hand was Charles Lindbergh, famed for his solo flight 41 years ago, and the astronauts of Apollo 7 and Apollo 8, who in 1968 earned their place in history. En route to the dinner, they autographed a document which will hang in the treaty room alongside mementos of earlier spacemen who visited the mansion.
Now, before the countdown for Apollo 8 begins, I want to say this to the men of its crew, Colonel Borman, Captain Lovell, to Major Andrews. We pray for you, we think of you, we wish you Godspeed, we wish you a safe return. And the only person in the world that's going to be more concerned about you than I am is the girls who wait for your return.
T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit. We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have cleared the tower.
Roger. How do you hear, Houston? Loud and clear.
65 years to the month after Orville and Wilbur Wright propelled the first American airplane over the ocean dunes at Kitty Hawk, powerful Saturn rockets launched Apollo 8's crew on man's first trip to the moon. It was described as an absolutely perfect liftoff at 7:51 a.m. from Cape Kennedy. And soon the rocket was traveling 24,000 miles per hour.
I have a beautiful view of the S-4B and the Earth here on one. I'll try to get a picture for you. Okay. Apollo 8, Houston. Go ahead, Houston. Apollo 8, you are go for TLI. Over. Roger, understand. We're go for TLI.
"68 hours and 58 minutes into the mission, the astronauts passed around the dark side of the moon. 10 minutes later, they fired the thrust engine into a successful lunar orbit. By now, the spacemen were radioing back their close-up sightings of the moon only 70 miles away.
The moon is a different thing to each one of us. I know my own impression is that it's a vast, lonely, forbidding type existence or expanse of nothing. It looks rather like clouds and clouds of pumice stone. And it certainly would not appear to be a very inviting place to live or work.
During their 10 orbits of the moon, the astronauts photographed the Sea of Tranquility and other potential landing sites for use by future Apollo explorers. With lunar shadows lengthening below them and the void of the universe looming beyond, America's astronauts read from the book of Genesis, the story of creation.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
And now the most critical moment of the journey had arrived, when the team of Borman, Lovell, and Anders would attempt to restart their engines and rocket back to Earth.
Houston, Apollo 8, over. Hello, Apollo 8. Loud and clear. Roger. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus. That's affirmative. Here, the best one to know.
The triumphant shouts from Mission Control in Houston on Christmas Day could only mean one thing. The engines were started again, and Apollo 8 was on its way home. A flawless, supremely successful flight, with splashdown coming in the pre-dawn hours of Friday morning, December 27th, not far from the USS Yorktown, 1,000 miles southwest of Honolulu. A courageous event, said the Russians. The Vatican called it daring, incredible. Britain's astronomer, Sir Bernard Lovell, who earlier had questioned its scientific value, now called it one of the historic moments in the development of the human race. From Paris, the supreme compliment. Magnifique, formidable. And from Washington, President Johnson immediately conveyed to the astronauts the exultant feelings of Americans.
We want to welcome you home. We thank God that you're back safe again. You've made us very proud to be alive at this particular moment in history. You've made us feel kin to those Europeans nearly 5 centuries ago who heard stories of the New World for the first time. There's just no other comparison that we can make that's equal to what you've done or to what we feel.
America's space achievement, said NASA's retiring director James Webb, was the lengthened shadow of President Johnson, who since his Senate days had led the historic effort to explore the frontiers of space. In other, more down-to-earth programs as well, the profile of Lyndon B. Johnson's accomplishments was by now clearly established. The chief executive reflected on this record in various ceremonies during the month.
In the 188 years of our government, I would list the Housing Act of 1968 as one of the 10 most important. Yet we have never been able to dramatize and to bring to the attention of the people of this country that this act even exists, much less let them know of the benefits that will flow from it. This act provides the machinery and the inducements and the incentives to build, not in the next 30 years, but in the next 10 years, 26 million housing units. Discrimination and outright segregation are being turned back in employment in public places, in housing, in government aid programs, in juries, in voting through the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. And I believe we had more than 600 observers in this last national election without incident. I think it was President Harry Truman who was president when he declared that good health is a right and not a privilege. That every citizen, regardless of his means, should have an opportunity for health care. Now, we have tried to make that this nation's policy for a good many years, but for a long time there's been a wide gap between our policy and reality. In the past 5 years, we have been working diligently trying to move on down the road and to close that gap. We have Medicare, and we have heart, cancer, and stroke programs. We have the neighborhood health centers. Ms. Johnson just returned from one the other day that she was ecstatic about. We have more than 40 health laws that we have enacted during these past 5 years.
Another Johnson achievement was highlighted on a chilly December afternoon as the First Lady made her farewell tour with the Committee for a More Beautiful Capital. Adding sparkle to Washington's cityscape would be new fountains, just below the White House and at Haines Point, where the Anacostia and Potomac rivers meet. They were the gifts of Mrs. Enid Haupt and Mrs. Rose Zalls and the Society for a More Beautiful Capital. After the dedication ceremonies, Mrs. Johnson and her committee held their last meeting by the warm fire of the White House Yellow Oval Room. Mrs. Johnson, in her 5 very active years as First Lady, has traveled over 100,000 miles, promoting beautification and an improved quality in American life.
There's no reason why one First Lady should have to be interested in painting China because another has this particular interest. There's no reason why, because I planted trees, another First Lady has to water them, although I surely hope somebody will, Nash. I would hope our president's wife would always have the freedom to do what comes naturally. And I have no doubt this would serve the public good. I wish the very best to Pat Nixon. I know she will make a fine First Lady. She has much to look forward to. And I know you will have some exciting years ahead as you meet and cover the new First Family.
She was faithfully accompanied in her travels by a corps of newswomen, whom she came to describe as hard-working, elastic, super-sensitive to events, and sentimental. And in December, the Women's National Press Club honored their favorite traveling companion as they presented Mrs. Johnson with the Eleanor Roosevelt Candlestick Award. In Texas during the month, President and Mrs. Johnson traveled to El Paso for a meeting with Mexican President Gustavo Díaz Ordaz. In their sixth reunion at the border, the two presidents presided over ceremonies completing the Chamizal Agreement. That agreement, formally ending a dispute over lands bordering the Rio Grande, will go down in history as a model example of peaceful solution of international misunderstandings. But in other parts of the world, tension and conflict persisted, especially in the Middle East and in Vietnam. These were high priority items on the agenda of the President's cabinet meeting.
At present, the situation in the Middle East remains critical and extremely dangerous. The most immediate source of danger is the continuation of, and indeed the build-up of, violent incidents along the ceasefire lines established by the Security Council in June of last year. Because the Middle East not only is inflammatory in its own right, in terms of its own territory, but because of many circumstances, including its geographical location, it is an area which could be inflamed to a point where the great powers could be engaged or highly involved with each other in the most dangerous fashion. So we'll continue to work at it just as hard as we can. But I think Ambassador Harriman might report directly on the talks.
There are two basic subjects to discuss. One, of course, is the political settlement, and it's our hope that the Vietnamese will get together and work out a political settlement. They start very far apart. We're supporting the position of the government, which is the Constitution is a democratic constitution, and the VC are rebels against the government, and if they lay down their arms, they can join the peaceful life of the political life of the country. The other side maintains that there must be an agreement, and there should be a coalition government, which they would expect over a period of time to control. So they start apart. Now, on the other side is the question which relates to the Manila communique, a mutual withdrawal of foreign forces. We've taken a position that the United States government will withdraw its forces as the other side withdraws, and as its foreign forces, the North Vietnamese, as the violence thus subsides.
Secretary Clifford, will you give us a brief statement on the military situation as you see it?
There have been some indications that our military efforts are weakening the Viet Cong infrastructure. And if so, this can prove to be valuable. But that, again, is a long, arduous, onerous process. On the other side of the coin, while I say that we're having success with our military efforts in South Vietnam, yet I do not wish to suggest that the enemy is being affected in such a manner that he cannot carry on his military efforts. He can do so. When he chooses to mount some important offensive, he can bring the men down and can supply them and can arm them to do so. There is some indication that they may be building up to a possible winter-spring offensive. Keep in mind, he's tried it 3 times now. Each time it's been unsuccessful. He may be preparing to try it a 4th time. General Abrams' opinion is that if he tries it again, it will be no more successful than the others have been.
The war proceeds in Vietnam, as Secretary Clifford put it, and the war continued to exact its toll. Yet out of each new battle, it seemed, another story emerged of American valor, like that of a man who died leading a jungle attack against withering fire. Captain Riley Leroy Pitts, the first Negro officer of the United States Armed Forces to be awarded the Medal of Honor. Earlier in the month, Iran's Prime Minister, Emir Abbas Hoveda, came to Washington. And now, the red carpet is out for the final White House state visit of the Johnson administration. It was the first state visit to Washington by the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah al-Salim al-Sabah. As a part of the president's welcoming ceremonies on the South Lawn, the Emir received a 21-gun salute. The last head of state dinner of the Johnson administration was filled with nostalgia and memories. The ceremonial functions and prior arrangements for this crowning event were typical of all state dinners held in this house. Preparations were begun well in advance, enlisting the talents of a wide range of specialists, from the American Embassy in Al-Kuwait to the flower room in the White House basement. Rusty Young, the mansion's florist, has assembled great bouquets of fresh flowers for the reception rooms and centerpieces for the banquet tables. The White House calligraphers hard at work. They are responsible for handwriting invitations as well as place cards for each of the 140 guests invited to dinner. The office of Mrs. Tyler Abel, White House Social Secretary, a very important nerve center for the First Family's social and diplomatic activities. With the First Family, she coordinates invitation lists, menus, entertainment, and hundreds of other ingredients of the state visit with the staff and the First Lady. For this occasion, Mrs. Johnson chose to feature the China service recently acquired by the White House, depicting the wild flowers of America. Around the china, beautiful stemware, damask napkins, embossed with the president's seal, and the four-course dinner menu, which included breast of pheasant smitan and awatef Bavarian, a dessert named in honor of the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter. Just below the state dining room is the kitchen. White House chef Henry Haller busy at work with his staff. Providing entertainment at White House social functions is a custom dating back to the administration of William Howard Taft. It is richly varied, depending on the guest of honor. The magic moment arrived when White House military aides began receiving guests at the diplomatic reception room, just off the South Lawn entrance. And at 8 p.m., word was passed along that the official guest was on his way from Blair House to meet President and Mrs. Johnson at the front entrance under the north portico, accompanied by the ambassador of Kuwait and Mrs. Al Hussein and Washington's chief of protocol and Mrs. Tyler Abel. After posing for photographs, the official party was escorted upstairs to sign the guest book and to exchange gifts in the yellow Oval Room. For the formal state gift, President and Mrs. Johnson presented their guest a silver desk set. For a personality gift, they gave a portable shortwave radio. Also, there was a gold bowl and candlesticks for his daughter and son-in-law. The Emir presented Mrs. Johnson with a silver tea service and an antique chest. President Johnson received the model of a trading vessel, a traditional Kuwait gift. Afterwards, the president's party descended the grand staircase to pause for the official photograph. receiving line was formed in the East Room, first by protocol, then in alphabetical order. At the head of the line, President and Mrs. Johnson, who have had long experience in receiving guests and making them feel at home. They are presenting to the guest of honor a rich mixture of the leading citizens of the United States, dignitaries, friends of the first family, and persons having a strong interest in the visitor's home country, all gathered together in the most refined and pleasing side of diplomacy. And now, dinner is about to be served in the state dining room. Mrs. Johnson was seated with the Emir of Kuwait. And across the room, the president was joined by Mrs. Al-Hussein, and on his left, Mrs. Birch Bayh, wife of the senator from Indiana. The seating arrangement is carefully worked out by the First Lady, the Social Secretary, and the Chief of Protocol. 60 state dinners and 40 state luncheons for chancellors, kings, shahs, presidents, prime ministers, and emirs. The Johnsons have rolled out a generous welcome mat in their 5 years at the White House, making friends personally, but more importantly, friends for the United States.
We're all pleased that you could be here to share this evening with us. This is the last of these happy occasions, these state visits that I shall attend here in the White House. So it's with great pleasure that Ms. Johnson and I have the privilege of being here with the leading citizens from throughout this nation, from all of its 50 states. And I should like to ask all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to join me in a toast to our honored guest, the Emir of Kuwait.
And tonight, the President and I are feeling very nostalgic because this is the last, sir, of the state dinners that we have had in these 5 years. And so we have asked back the entertainers, the very talented entertainers who gave us a memorable evening when we had our first state dinner. It was Robert Merrill, the baritone of the Metropolitan Opera, and the Christie Minstrels, bright, gay young singers. So we'll begin with Robert Merrill.
On fait silas, à quoi se passe-t-il? Plus de cuissenesta, l'autoro s'élance à mon histoire taril. Il s'élance, et l'entre il frappe, à cheval roule, à traînette à picador. À bravo tonne, et là la foule, le tonne va bien, et le corps. Ces banderilles, venne filer il cour, le cirque est plein de sauts, oh, ce saut franchit les grilles, c'est au tour maintenant, allons, en garde, allons, allons, toreador, en garde, toreador, songez bien, oui, songez combattant, que les noirs te le gagnent, et que l'autre toréador, l'amour,
we don't do protest songs for a couple of reasons. First of all, we're not mad at anybody. And I think most important, we're really tired of seeing people in dirty clothes singing about hard work they've never done and wars they've never fought in. And we'd like to ask you now to join in and sing along with us on a song that we've adopted as our very own Christy Minstrel National Anthem. It's a song that not only pertains to our country and our land, but we've performed this all over the entire world, and the response was fantastic. Now, if you're not sure of the lyrics, I'm going to be really upset, but if you're not sure, just listen the first time through. You can get them first time, and then just jump right in there, stomping your feet and clapping your hands, and just let yourselves go within reason. And we want to hear each and every one of you now from the bottom of your hearts. Let's raise the roof right off this place. Are you ready? This land is your land. This land is my land. Everybody! From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that river of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. Yeah. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. Yeah. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. Yeah. This land was made for you and me. How about it? I roamed and rambled. Yeah. My footsteps left me. A sparkling sandals, your diamond desert, and all around me a voice was calling. This land was made for you and me. Come on, let me hear you. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. The sun was shining as I was strolling, the wind was waving, and that's my goal. And the fog was lifting, a voice was calling. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
By the time the entertainment was over, it was nearly 11. And the Emir said goodnight to his hosts and departed for a night of rest at Blair House. But the party was far from over. Later that evening, the Johnsons found great enjoyment in a familiar song performed by Cab Calloway.
We shall always love this town. We came here in the high elation of the New Deal, when Tommy Corcoran and Ben Cohen were bustling in and out of the West Wing, and so many hopes of the nation were in the briefcases they were carrying up to the Hill. As a nation, we began to care. And that, my friends, I have found is what really makes the difference. For the man of that house to care.
For the White House, Christmas 1968 meant nostalgia, hope, thankfulness. It was President Johnson's last Christmas in this house. Although Mr. Johnson, like much of the nation, suffered a bout with the flu, he was home from the hospital in time for the presents to be opened. All his family, except his two sons-in-law, were gathered about him. This year, more so than in the recent past, was ending on a note of hope. By Christmas, the astronauts were heading safely homeward. North Korea had finally freed the crew members of the Pueblo. All contingents of the Vietnam conflict had gathered in Paris, and the nation prospered as never before. President Johnson shared the satisfaction of all Americans in these blessings. But as always, his thoughts were on those who were far from home, standing vigil on the freedoms we cherish, as he put it in his Christmas message to servicemen around the world.
This Christmas, the world is brightened with the hope of peace. When it comes, when hope turns to substance and the guns are quiet once again, it will come because you have pursued it with your courage and your skill. It will come because you have won it with a steadfast spirit that adds new luster to the honored tradition of American arms. This will be my last Christmas message to you as your Commander-in-Chief. But I will remember you all the days of my life as the patriots who manned the watchtower in a time of peril, so that all of us might live as free men. As one who is proud to have served with you, I salute you. And I pray that God will keep watch over all of you and unite you soon with your families and your loved ones.